Hey, Bookworms. Welcome back to the Book Summary Podcast.
It's good to be back.
Always a pleasure to have you here. So today we're going to be doing a deep dive on The Comfort Book by Matt Haig.
Oh, great choice.
It's one of those books that I just finished reading it and I was like, wow, I need to call in an expert because there's so much to unpack. I don't even know.
Yeah. It's not your typical self-help book, is it?
No. It's more like...
It's a collection of thoughts almost.
Yeah, just like personal reflections, little bits of wisdom, you know?
Yeah, like insightful observations, things that he's gathered over the years. Kind of almost like a journal in a way.
Mm.
But, if you ever read any of Matt Haig's other work, like Reasons to Stay Alive, you know that he's very open about his mental health struggles.
Right.
But this book feels different somehow.
So...
It feels like he's sharing these like hard-earned lessons about finding comfort and resilience.
Like in a world that feels very chaotic and overwhelming a lot of the time.
Right.
So speaking of which, one of the things that I love about Haig's writing, and I think this comes through so clearly in The Comfort Book, is just his honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't shy away from the dark stuff.
Right.
He talks about depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts even.
Yeah.
But he does it in a way that feels very honest and hopeful at the same time.
Yes. And that's what's so unique about it, isn't it? He doesn't try to sugarcoat things or pretend that everything's fine.
Right, exactly.
But he also doesn't leave you feeling hopeless.
Right. He meets you where you are.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I appreciate most about his work.
It's refreshing, isn't it?
It is. It really is. And, one of the first things that he does in the book, he uses this really powerful analogy.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
He asks us to imagine ourselves as babies.
Okay, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And he talks about how babies, they just are. They don't question their worth.
Right.
They don't compare themselves to other babies.
Yeah.
They just exist in this state of pure being.
Yeah.
And he suggests that we all have that same inherent worth, that same capacity for joy and wonder.
Right.
Even if we've kind of forgotten it along the way.
And we do, don't we?
We do.
We get so caught up in all the shoulds and the have-tos and, all the external pressures.
Exactly.
That we forget that inherent worth that we all possess.
And I think that's such a powerful reminder, especially in today's world where we're constantly bombarded with messages about what we should be, what we should look like, what we should achieve.
Right. It's like a constant barrage of comparison.
It is. It really is. And so Haig's message there, it's like this permission slip to just let go of all those self-imposed pressures and expectations.
It's just to be.
Yeah.
Just to be.
To just be. And, and speaking of letting go, Haig shares this I thought, really relatable story.
Oh.
About getting lost in a forest with his father. Do you remember that story?
Yeah, I do.
And I found it so relatable because, I think we've all felt lost at some point in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like that feeling of not knowing which way to go, of being surrounded by uncertainty and fear.
Mm-hmm.
And Haig's father, he tells him something really profound.
What's that?
He says, just keep walking.
Wow, that's simple but powerful.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that simple advice, it becomes this metaphor for navigating life's challenges.
Yeah, it's about trusting the process, right?
Exactly.
Even when we don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
Even when we can't see the path ahead.
It's about putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And just trusting that eventually we'll find our way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's such an important takeaway.
It is.
Especially for anyone struggling with anxiety or feeling overwhelmed by life's uncertainties.
Right, because it can be so paralyzing, can it?
It can.
When you feel like you don't know what to do, you don't know which way to turn.
Exactly. And sometimes we get so caught up in trying to control everything.
Yes.
That we forget the power of simply taking action. Even if it's just a small step.
Yeah, just keep walking.
Just keep walking.
Right.
And I thought it was just a really beautiful reminder of that.
It is. It's about faith, isn't it?
Yeah. It's about trust. Trust in ourselves, trust in the process.
And trust that we'll figure it out along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, it reminded me of something that Haig says later in the book about neuroplasticity.
Oh, yeah.
The brain's ability to change and adapt.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
And he talks about how even if we've been stuck in negative thought patterns or behaviors for a long time, we still have the power to rewire our brains.
Right.
To create new pathways for healing and growth.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is. Like our brains are not fixed.
Right. They're constantly evolving.
They are. They're constantly changing. And that's such a hopeful message, I think.
It is.
Because it means that even if we've been struggling with something for a long time, it doesn't have to define us.
Yeah.
We can change.
We can heal.
We can grow.
Yeah.
And I think that's really powerful, don't you think?
I do. It gives you a sense of agency, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. And speaking of change, Haig also talks about the power of words in the book.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
And he shares his own experience with finding his voice through writing, how it helped him process his emotions and make sense of his struggles.
Yeah.
And he even connects it to Maya Angelou's story,
Oh, wow.
how she found solace in literature.
Right. After experiencing trauma.
Yeah. And, it's like words can be this bridge between our inner world and the outer world. It's a way to externalize what we're feeling.
Yeah.
And to connect with others who might be going through similar experiences.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the things that makes the comfort book so powerful.
How's that?
It feels like Haig is having a conversation with us,
Yeah.
sharing his vulnerabilities and his insights in a way that makes us feel seen and understood.
Right.
He's not preaching from a pedestal.
Yeah. He's right there with us.
He is. He's right there in the trenches, figuring things out as he goes.
Yeah.
And he even encourages us to engage in this process of self-discovery.
How does he suggest we do that?
Through asking ourselves why.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. He suggests that by digging deeper into our desires and our anxieties, by repeatedly asking ourselves, why do I want this? Or why do I feel this way?
Yeah.
We can uncover these underlying beliefs and motivations
Right.
that are driving our thoughts and behaviors.
It's like a tool for self-exploration, isn't it?
It is.
To kind of peel back the layers and understand ourselves better.
Exactly. And, as someone who's always been fascinated by psychology, I found that technique really resonated with me.
Yeah, me too. It's simple but effective.
It is. It really is. And it's like a reminder to be curious about ourselves.
Yeah.
To approach our inner world with a sense of exploration and compassion.
And curiosity.
And curiosity, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really beautiful thing.
It is.
And, speaking of beauty, Haig also talks about finding comfort in stillness and slowness
Oh, yeah.
in the book.
That's a big one in today's world.
It is, isn't it? I mean, in a world that's constantly bombarding us with stimulation
Yeah.
and demanding our attention, Haig reminds us of the importance of slowing down, of creating space for quiet reflection,
Yeah.
and simply being present.
And just being.
And just being.
Yeah.
And it's like he's giving us permission to step off the treadmill of busyness.
Right.
And to reconnect with ourselves.
To find that sense of inner peace and contentment.
Exactly. That often eludes us when we're constantly on the go.
Right. We're always doing.
We are. And he even talks about how he found solace in something as simple as making hummus.
Oh, wow.
Remember that part?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not really about the hummus itself.
It's not.
It's about the ritual.
Exactly.
The slow, deliberate movements, the focus on the present moment.
Yeah.
It's like a form of meditation almost.
It is.
A way to ground ourselves in the here and now.
And find a sense of peace amidst the chaos.
Yeah, amidst all the busyness and the distractions.
Right. And I think that's a really powerful message for all of us.
It is.
Especially in today's world.
Yeah. It's a much-needed reminder.
It is.
To slow down, to simplify, to be present.
And it's a reminder that comfort and peace can be found in the simplest of things if we're willing to slow down and pay attention.
It's about shifting our focus from doing to being.
Yes.
From striving to simply existing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really profound concept.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
And, as we're talking about all of this, it makes me think about Haig's chapter on the gold-saddled goatfish.
Oh, yeah. What a great example.
Did that one stand out to you at all?
Absolutely. I love how he uses these seemingly random, quirky examples from nature to illustrate these deeper truths about the human experience.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, who would have thought that a tiny fish could teach us about the power of connection and community?
Yeah, but there's something so profound about it, isn't there?
There is.
The way these goatfish, they swim together.
Yeah.
Creating this illusion of a much larger, more intimidating creature
Yeah.
to ward off predators.
Yeah. And it's like a metaphor for how we can find strength and resilience in coming together, in supporting each other.
In recognizing that we're not meant to go through life alone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
It is.
And, it makes me think about how Haig weaves together so many different threads in this book. Science, philosophy, personal anecdotes, even pop culture references.
It's like a tapestry, isn't it?
It is.
Of wisdom and insight.
Yeah. He's constantly drawing connections between these seemingly disparate things.
Yeah.
Which I find really fascinating.
It's engaging, isn't it?
It is. It keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, it does. It makes you think.
And before we move on, I just want to say, if you're enjoying this deep dive into the comfort book,
yeah,
make sure to hit that like button.
Yes.
And subscribe to the Book Summary Podcast.
Definitely.
For more insightful book explorations.
We have so much more to share.
We do.
Yeah.
So much more to share. So yeah, let's continue exploring this treasure trove of wisdom.
Okay, I'm ready. What's next? Okay, so where were we?
Oh yeah, Haig's ability to kind of like find these connections between all these different things.
Yeah. It's like his mind is just constantly making these connections. Like, did you get to the part about Stephen Callahan?
Oh yeah, the guy who survived 76 days at sea.
Yeah. I mean, that story just blew me away. Just like the sheer will to survive.
Yeah, in those conditions. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, completely alone, facing starvation, dehydration.
Sharks.
Yeah, sharks. I mean, everything.
Everything.
But what really struck me was how he talks about finding beauty.
Yeah, even in the midst of all that hardship.
Yeah, like he talks about the beauty of the night sky, the vastness of the ocean.
Just like the simple things, like the taste of rainwater.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a reminder that we can choose to focus on the good.
Yeah.
Even when things are really tough.
Even when things are really tough. And I think that's a skill that we can cultivate.
You think so?
I think so. Like, it's like training your mind to see the positive.
Yeah.
To find those glimmers of hope, even in the darkest of times. And it makes me think about what Haig says about, like, the importance of controlling our perceptions.
Yeah. Are you thinking about the stoicism part?
The stoicism, yeah. When he talks about Epictetus.
Yes.
The Stoic philosopher who's born a slave.
Right.
But, like, found freedom through his philosophy.
It's amazing.
It is. And, like, he emphasizes that we can't control external events.
Right.
But we can control our thoughts and reactions to them. And I was just thinking, like, that is such a relevant message for today.
It is.
I mean, we live in a world where it feels like everything is out of control.
Yeah, all the time.
All the time.
It's constant chaos.
Constant chaos. But, the Stoics, they remind us that we still have power.
Over our own minds.
Yeah. And Haig even connects this to his own experiences with anxiety and panic attacks.
Right.
And he talks about how he learned to kind of confront those feelings head on, to accept them rather than trying to fight them.
Yeah, that's a really powerful idea.
Isn't it?
It is. It's counterintuitive to think that leaning into your fear can actually help you overcome it.
Yeah.
But it seemed to work for him.
It did.
So what do you think about that?
Well, it reminds me of something else he talks about, this idea of negative capability.
Oh, yeah.
Which I had never heard of before.
Yeah.
It's this idea coined by the poet John Keats.
Right.
And it's about being comfortable with uncertainty, with not knowing everything.
It's like embracing the mystery of life.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's so easy to get caught up in wanting all the answers.
Yeah. Wanting to control everything.
Wanting to control every outcome. But sometimes the most beautiful things happen when we just surrender to the unknown.
I agree. It's about letting go of that need for certainty.
Right. And trusting that even if we don't have all the answers, even if things are messy and uncertain, we can still find our way.
And find beauty in that uncertainty.
And, and I think this also ties into what Haig says about comparing ourselves to others.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Right.
Yeah.
And how that can just fuel our anxiety and our insecurities. And he emphasizes that our worth is inherent. It's not dependent on, external validation or achievements. And I think that's such a liberating message.
It is.
To know that we are enough, just as we are, regardless of what anyone else thinks.
Or what we've accomplished.
Yeah. And speaking of embracing our individuality,
yeah,
I loved how Haig encourages us to, like, celebrate our eccentricities.
Our weirdness. Yeah.
He uses this great analogy.
Oh, tell me about it.
Of fruit.
Okay.
Saying that not every fruit has to be an apple.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah, some of us are pomegranates, some of us are mangoes.
Yeah. And And that's perfectly okay.
It's what makes life interesting.
Exactly.
It's the diversity.
The uniqueness of each individual.
Yeah. And it's a reminder that we don't need to conform
Yeah.
to some arbitrary standard
Right.
of what's normal or acceptable.
What did you think about Haig's thoughts on rest?
Oh, that was huge for me.
Yeah, why is that?
Because, I mean, in a world that glorifies busyness and productivity,
Yeah.
it can feel almost radical to prioritize rest.
It can, like you're going against the grain.
Yeah, exactly. But it's so important, isn't it?
It is. And Haig reminds us that our value
Yeah.
is not tied to our output.
It's not about how much we produce
It's
or
not,
how busy we are.
it's not about how much we do, yeah. It's
Yeah.
that we're worthy of love and acceptance, even when we're not being productive.
It's a much needed reminder, isn't it?
It is. It's like we need to give ourselves permission
Yes.
to slow down,
To recharge.
to recharge,
To simply exist.
to simply exist without the pressure to perform.
Yeah.
And while we're on this topic of self-care, I think it's worth mentioning Haig's emphasis on the interconnectedness of all things.
Oh, yeah. How we're all part of this larger web of life.
Yeah. And he draws these parallels between scientific concepts,
Oh, like what?
like trace elements.
Okay.
Those tiny particles that are found everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And the way that we can find traces of hope and joy, even in the most difficult experiences.
It's like saying that even in the darkest of times, there's still light to be
Yeah.
found.
Yeah.
There's still connection.
There's still something larger than ourselves.
Yeah, holding us together.
Holding us together. And it's a very comforting thought, isn't it?
It is. It makes me think about how Haig talks about forgiveness,
Yeah.
both for ourselves and for others.
Yeah.
How holding on to anger and resentment just hurts us in the end.
Yeah.
But forgiveness can be a path to healing and liberation. Have you ever had to deal with that?
Oh, definitely.
That's tough, isn't it?
It's tough. And it's not always easy,
Yeah.
but it's something to strive for,
Yeah.
to recognize that we're all imperfect,
Mm-hmm.
that we all make mistakes.
We're all human.
We're all human, and holding on to those grudges
Yeah.
only weighs us down.
It does. It keeps us stuck in the past.
It does. What stood out to you about Haig's thoughts on introversion?
Well, I appreciated how he normalized it. He reminds us that introversion isn't a flaw or something to be fixed.
Yeah.
It's simply a different way of being in the world.
Yeah.
And it has its own unique strengths and beauty.
Totally. It's about honoring our own needs and preferences.
Yeah.
Recognizing that some of us thrive in solitude
Mm-hmm.
and quiet contemplation.
And he also talks about the importance of finding our own tribe,
Yeah.
right?
For people.
Surrounding ourselves with people who understand and appreciate us for who we are. When you think about it, Haig's book is a bit like that.
How so?
Well, it's like he's creating a space for those of us who are maybe a little more introspective,
Yeah.
a little more sensitive,
Yeah.
a little more searching for meaning and comfort in this crazy world. Like he's saying, hey, you're not alone. I get it.
Yeah. And that in itself can be incredibly comforting. Speaking of comfort,
Okay.
what did you think about his reflections on the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Oh, that was so interesting because initially he disliked the main character, Ferris. He saw him as selfish and manipulative. But over time, his perspective shifted. And he came to appreciate the film's message about embracing joy and spontaneity.
Yeah. That's a great example of how our perspectives can evolve.
Yeah.
How we can reevaluate our judgments and find new meaning
Yeah.
in things that we may have previously dismissed.
And it also speaks to Haig's own willingness to be open-minded, to challenge his own assumptions, and to find those moments of delight in unexpected places. What an inspiring message.
It is, and it reminds us that it's okay to change our minds,
Yeah.
to grow and evolve as we learn and experience new things.
Absolutely.
And speaking of growth and evolution, I think it's time to move on to the final part of our deep dive. If you're finding this insightful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the Book Summary podcast for more book explorations like this.
So, one image that really stayed with me from the Comfort book was Haig's comparison of humans to cups.
Oh, yeah. Where he says, we have no control over how people perceive us, so we shouldn't waste energy trying to change their minds.
Yeah, it's much more productive to focus on keeping our own cups full, right?
Yeah.
Nurturing ourselves, surrounding ourselves with people who bring us joy. It's such a simple analogy.
It is, but so powerful. It's a reminder to set boundaries, right? to protect our energy from those who drain us, and to
Yeah.
prioritize our own well-being. And it makes you realize how much energy we can waste on trying to please others
Oh, like, totally.
or fit into some external mold.
Yeah.
What did you think about his approach to dealing with fear?
Well, he has this interesting idea, right, about how confronting our fears can actually diminish their power over us. It's
Yeah.
like staring down a demon and realizing it's not as scary as you imagine.
It's so true. He even uses the example of panic attacks, and he describes learning to lean into those feelings instead of resisting them. And by accepting the panic rather than fighting it, it eventually lost its grip on him. Have you ever tried that approach?
I have, and it's definitely counterintuitive, but there's something to be said for, not adding fuel to the fire.
Right.
When we try to suppress or ignore those difficult emotions, they often just fester and grow stronger. But when we acknowledge them, we allow ourselves to feel them without judgment.
Yeah.
They often lose their intensity.
It's like giving ourselves permission to experience the full range of human emotions.
Exactly. The good, the bad, and the uncomfortable.
The uncomfortable,
Yeah.
yeah. And, speaking of embracing the full spectrum of human experience, one of the simplest yet most profound messages in the book, I thought, was Haig's reminder that we are alive.
Yes.
Right.
Just that simple fact.
He talks about how our worth is inherent.
Yeah.
Like it's not something we have to earn or prove. We are valuable simply by virtue of existing.
Of being part of this incredible web of life. It's such an important message to remember, especially when we're feeling lost or down on ourselves.
Oh, totally.
It's a reminder to come back to the present moment, appreciate the miracle of our own existence,
Yeah.
and find joy in the simple fact that we are here breathing, experiencing, being.
Yeah, being. And I think that ties in nicely with his critique of the idea that we have to constantly strive for more to achieve and accumulate in order to be happy.
Oh, absolutely. He encourages us to appreciate what we have, to find contentment in the present moment, and just embrace the messy miracle of being alive. It's a beautiful sentiment.
It really is. And I love how he weaves in these philosophical ideas from different traditions, like from Stoicism to Buddhism to Taoism even. He's not advocating for any one specific belief system, but rather he's drawing wisdom from a variety of sources.
Right, to create this tapestry of comfort and resilience.
Yeah. And he shows us that these human experiences, like grappling with the meaning of life, dealing with suffering, searching for happiness, these things are universal. People across cultures and throughout history have struggled with these same questions.
It's a shared human experience.
Exactly. And knowing that we're not alone in our struggles can be incredibly comforting.
It is. It's like there's this thread that connects us all, regardless of our differences. Did his ideas about endings stand out to you at all?
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting too.
Yeah.
The way he talks about endings not being truly final.
Right. He describes life as this constant cycle of change and transformation, right?
Yeah.
Suggesting that even in death, there's a continuation, a becoming.
I love that analogy he uses of a fire turning into ash, which becomes earth. And it's like this, it highlights the interconnectedness of all things and the ever-evolving nature of existence.
It's a beautiful way of reframing our view of endings, isn't it?
It is.
Instead of seeing them as points of finality. We can see them as transitions, as opportunities for new beginnings. And that can be a very hopeful and comforting perspective.
Absolutely. It's like, even though things end, they also, in a way, continue.
Yeah.
In a different form.
Yeah.
And as we wrap up this deep dive into the comfort book, I think one of the most important takeaways for me is Haig's message about finding comfort in being ourselves.
Yeah.
Letting go of the need to be perfect and embracing our flaws, our quirks, our unique perspectives, celebrating our individuality.
Yeah.
Finding strength in our vulnerability.
Yeah.
And connecting with those who appreciate us for who we truly are.
And ultimately, it's about recognizing that we're all part of this incredible, messy, beautiful tapestry of life. And our journey, with all its imperfections, is worth celebrating.
Beautifully said. So, dear listener, what resonated most with you from our exploration of Matt Haig's The Comfort Book? We'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment below and share your experiences. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the Book Summary Podcast for more insightful book explorations. We're always here to help you find those nuggets of wisdom and comfort that make life a little bit brighter. Until next time, keep reading, keep exploring, and keep embracing the messy miracle of being you.